Hello chess friends and welcome to Zarov's chess channel and welcome to a special game that I wanted to show you today. It's one of my games that I recently played for my club, and in my club my brother is playing, my brother-in-law Antonio, the famous Agadmator, is playing, my two nephews are playing, so we're really a family club, and I really enjoy when we play together, when we drive somewhere, when we play against some other clubs, and it's really a great feeling to be in this family mood. Sort of, it's we always get a cold one after we lose or win games. It's not a problem. We really enjoy chess. We really love to talk about chess, and here I wanted to show really one of my games. I've played it on Sunday, and my brother said to me, okay, publish it. I think it's okay. You had some great ideas, and unfortunately for us, Antonio couldn't participate as he had his heart surgery. But I wanted to also mention that with Antonio is everything fine. He will recover, and he needs now really his time, but he has to be careful. But soon I think we'll see Agadmator again recording some great videos. So this game I wanted to show you because it shows really how hard chess now these days is, because I played against a 2000 rated player, and you have to play such an accurate game in order to win some games. You have to perform really in such a shape, because in this game that I wanted to show today I had really this only two stockfish inaccuracies, and I will show you of course what are my inaccuracies in the game. Of course there are lines, and there are better lines, but there is really this evaluation which stockfish shows you when you give when you analyze the whole game, when you request really a computer analysis of your game. Then you can really see what how many inaccuracies, mistakes or blunders you make. So this game, I think it's really a tough one, because as I said, you really need to play almost to perfection in order to win a game against anyone. This is now how chess is played, and I think it's also an instructive chess game which you can use if you have troubles, maybe for instance, to play against the Queen's Gambit Accepted. So I opened with the move d4. I'm basically a d4 player. d5, c4, and we have the Queen's Gambit Accepted. Knight to f3. I've played in some occasions I've played the move e3, but then you risk some e5 pawn breakthrough motif, so that's why this move knight to f3 is preventing this idea. We have e6 and now e3. After knight to f6 we have bishop to c4, and this is now of course still common theory of the Queen's Gambit Accepted, but the main strength of mine is of course first of all the bishop's activity here on this long diagonal, and also these two centralized pawns. So far I have the so-called pawn central control, so my main goal is somehow to advance the pawn on e4. So the black's main strength is of course this 3 versus 2 situation on the queen side. So black has here a pawn majority. Black will probably make some progress on that side, and here my opponent tried to move a6, and I usually don't like to play. I don't like to play the move a4 immediately, because it's a very risky line for me, because in some occasions black will try then knight to c6, knight to b4, and cement really the position around the square d5, and will break then to position with the move c5. That's also a natural setup. So by black, it's really sometimes very annoying to play against this centralized knight, against this very nice compact position around the square d5, because black has really a fixed position. So that's why I don't want to play the move a4, because the a4 move is weakening a little bit here my queen side, and I'm leaving also some spaces behind, because I want to have still the control of the b4 square. It's really part of my opening prep, and now after castling we have b5, and now bishop to d3. Maybe you will see bishop to b3 also, but my main goal, as I said, bishop to d3, e4, e5, and then maybe try some Greek gift attacks against the castle king on h7. So bishop to d3, bishop to b7, queen to e2. Simply removing the queen from the first rank. What I want to do is play the rook on the d file. Then my opponent will have troubles to play this very aggressive c5 move. In the game, bishop to e7, and I played now rook to d1. So still common theory, and my opponent castled, and now a4. Now I want to break the position, because first of all, black will make progress, as I said, with the potential c5 move. So that's why I want to undermine his pawn majority pressure here on the queen side. a4. In the game, my opponent tried b4, but at least he has now exposed himself a little bit, and now it's time again to develop my minor pieces. Knight from b to d2. Here my opponent tried c5, and I simply take. D takes c5, bishop to knight to d7, and now knight to b3. This is Still a playable position for both sides. Of course, I cannot protect the pawn on c5. That's not the main point. I want to recapture with the knight. That's the main issue here. I really want to have really this tension on the d file. So that's my opponent here get out of the d file mess and play the move queen to c7. But now I have e4. At least I'm grabbing some space. My opponent has played now many moves in order just to take this pawn on c5. So he has lost a couple of tempos. I have created, as I said, this very aggressive attack on the d file, and now my bishop is liberated. Now I have also the tension against this knight on f6. So here knight to c5, knight to c5, and now bishop to c5, and now bishop to g5. My main goal is now to simply play in this open position style. Whenever you feel that the position is open, you have to occupy the central squares, the central files, the central diagonal, sort of this 4 squares you have to occupy here in the center with all of your pieces. So the center can never be unprotected in a chess game. If you don't protect your center, you will probably get crushed. So that's why my idea is simply to play first of all the spin on with the rook on c1. But it's not a problem that my opponent cannot escape from the spin. At least I could force maybe another queen moves. At least I can get another tempo. So knight to g4, which was now really the best move by my opponent. Still the position is equal. I didn't gain here, I think, such an advantage. So as I said, so far my opponent played a good game. I think I also played a decent opening line here. I played bishop to h4 because my pawn on f2 is hanging, but I want to stay with the rook on the d file. I don't want to retreat, of course, with the rook to f1 because, as I said, I want to have this control of this very important c and d file. So knight to e5. Here my opponent really forces now basically the trade of pieces. Knight to e5, knight to e5, and queen to g3. Queen to g5. The main goal of this move is h4, h5. If I weaken the pawn structure with h3 or h5, h4, then you have some tactics. Queen takes g3 is here tactical, so the possibility here for black. So that's why I have to be careful. In the game, I played rook to c1, this normal idea, and now h5. It was a risky choice by my opponent, but the idea is clear. I played simply now king to h1, which was now my first inaccuracy in the game. So as I said, I had 2 inaccuracies in the game, no mistakes and blunders. King to h1, really not the best of moves. Here, bishop to h4 is probably better. That's at least what the engine is suggesting. After queen to h4, rook takes c5. This could be, I think, better with the direct attack against the pawn on h5, and I could also double up the rooks on the c file. So okay, it's not an inaccuracy that loses the game for me, but it was really a bad move. I could have proceeded better. I played here simply, I think, too fast. I didn't take too much time after my last move. I played simply the natural idea, king to h1, escaping from some tactical battles. Still, I'm slightly better here, but as I said, I had more accurate moves with this bishop to h4 idea. So rook from a to c8. My opponent sacrifices here the pawn. He wants now to deflect my queen here from the defense of the G file, and he wants to play h4, h3 and weaken my pawn structure. But that's exactly what I went for. I think he missed some tactics here because I really saw one great line. And I'll explain you now what's all about. I took simply the pawn. We have bishop to a6. If h4 now, I'll simply take the bishop, and it's not a problem here for me to proceed. But here my opponent takes. Bishop takes a6. I take queen takes a6, and now h4 attacking the bishop. But now my opponent missed this. I saw really this tactic that here I have this tension on the c file, but also the rook is attacking here the rook on c8 indirectly, of course. But that's why I have this in between bit here with the move bishop to d6, really this double attack on the bishop, and at least I have also an attack on the rook on f8. Then my opponent is suddenly in troubles because he didn't calculate his tactics very well. He tried now h3, which I expected, and afterwards when I talked with my opponent about this game, he saw, of course, the move h3 and that it's very dangerous. But he didn't see this possibility that I played. I played simply g takes h3. I will take simply your pawn. And now, as I said, black has really some troubles. Black will lose some pieces if he doesn't escape now. And he, as I said, mentioned that this g takes h3 he didn't expect. that he expected that I will not weaken the pawn structure too much and will play maybe a g3 move. But g3 leads now into a complicated line with queen to g4 and queen to f3. I would have to retreat with my queen here to e2 and similar ideas, or maybe to f1 in order to protect some potential checkmate threats on g2. So that's why I simply took and basically invited my opponent to do something now. And now I have also some other possibilities, because I have opened first of all the g file, and there is simply no good way here to do some perpetuals. Even if my opponent gets, for instance, a check, he can only get a check on f3, and I escape maybe with the king on g1, and he cannot create another check. That's the most important thing here to realize. He can maybe take the pawn, but he cannot do perpetual checks, and that's what I was thinking about. And still the c5 bishop is hanging, the rook on f8 is hanging, and my opponent tried rook to a8, attacking the queen, but still queen to b5, staying here on this rank, and still creating a further pin. In the game, my opponent tried queen to c1, rook to c1, and now he grabs simply the rook for the bishop for the queen. But probably he thought, okay, I have maybe some tactical threats here. The rook can always be connected. Still, this is protectable. He can also maybe grab this pawn on b2. He can maybe play some batteries on the a file. The most important thing is what he probably thought of, that his king is not endangered. But I went here simply straightforward, and that's my now second inaccuracy. And this inaccuracy, it's really evaluated by the Stockfish engine, but still it leaves me an advantage of plus 4.3 for me here, as from white's perspective. So it's not an inaccuracy again that I'm losing, but I had a better idea. The Stockfish engine suggests here the move rook to c6 after something like rook to b8, then to play simply rook to b6 and simplify the game. Maybe to play something like rook to b7 and simply maybe try here an attack on the 7th rank, which is not possible immediately, but as a long-term plan it could work. So, but as I said, rook to g1, I sensed here that I could really have some tactics around the square g7, and I could proceed with h4, h5, h6 to really deflect this pawn from the g file and create really some tactical possibilities. So in the game g6, and I played simply this idea h4, simply trying to open the g file. My opponent tried king to g7, and now h5. Rook to h8, and now I play queen to d7. This was now really my best move in the game. There are not many lines, but you can also make a mistake. For instance, if you take h takes g6 here, then you get checkmated on h2. And my brother said afterwards that he was a little bit worried that I maybe will miss this tactic on the h file, but I played simply, as I said, queen to d7. There is now really a great tactical idea about this move. First of all, it's a direct attack against the bishop. That's not the point. I will probably not grab the bishop, but the main tactical threat is now to move rook to g6, because I have also created the pin here on the 7th rank, and my opponent tried bishop to e5, rook to g6, king to f8, then now rook to e5, simply attacking further the bishop. Bishop takes b2. Okay, my opponent has grabbed the pawn, but now I can do this check, and the most important thing is the rook is on the g file, and the king can never escape on this file. Very important to get your opponent towards the center. Whenever you play against the king, you should always decoy him a little bit towards the center, to maybe even towards your side of the board. Whenever that happens, the king gets more and more endangered. The king, of course, needs protection, so that's why I have now a perfect attack with the rook and the queen. King to e8, and now queen to c6, king to e7, now queen to c5, and my opponent tried to escape. And you can pause the video and maybe try now to see the winning move, which I played now. It's a supportive move, sort of. First of all, when we always are on the attacking side, we should always evaluate the strength of our pieces. So the queen and the rook are really on the best squares. Whenever you see that basically there are no better squares for the pieces, probably the next best move is a pawn move. So that's why I played simply here the move f4 with a serious threat to play the move e5 after something like bishop to e5, then queen to e5 leads into checkmate. Our opponent couldn't escape here, and the rook and the queen building this very nice checkmate pattern in the center. So my opponent played really a funny e5 move, and I played simply queen to d6, and it was game over. So as I said, only 2 inaccuracies I played. This is the evaluation by the Stockfish engine that I used. King to h1, and as I said, this rook to g1 was evaluated in inaccuracy. I was very satisfied with my performance because I won the first game for our club. Then my other colleagues of my club could play much more freely. When you're leading in the game, that it's better, of course. Then maybe these other players can make a draw, and then we can win this match game. We won the match game. As I said, my nephew Ivan played also. He's only 12 years old. He plays for the first team here of our hometown. He won the game also for the club. My brother won also the game, and we got a 4-2 clear result, and we can now battle for the first place. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really decided just to show one of my games. It wasn't maybe something special, but I wanted to show you some of my ideas when I play classical time format chess. I basically don't get out of my opening prep. Even if someone prepares for me, I still would like to play my openings. I want to see to which particular moment he has prepared it, and we'll really have this strategical battle in my line. So that's my suggestion. When you don't sometimes feel good in some openings, don't play it. When you feel good in openings, play that openings, even if your opponent can prepare for this, but still you can find maybe some better sidelines, some improvements of position of particular lines, and play a decent game. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. If you want to see more of my games, check out my my chess games list. Here's the link. And if you want to see not so bad games, maybe the best chess games of all time, check out my best chess games of all time series. And if you like this content, you can also subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.